You have found the Open Eclectic Podcast, where Nate and Josh talk about everything from mobile games to books to pet peeves to cars to toys. Our interests run eclectic and we're open to more. Welcome to the Open Eclectic. Welcome back to another episode of the Open Eclectic.
Welcome everyone. It's been a little while since we've gotten together, Josh. This time we're doing it not in person, which is kind of surprising. This is the first, we've done all our other sessions, together in person until now. A bit of illness with your fam.
Oh yeah, we've been
hopefully
down with the sickness.
Hopefully everybody's doing well or doing better anyway.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm on an upward tick, so that's super good. The kids seem like they're doing all right, and wife too is kind of at least maintaining.
Good. Yeah, it's the time we're living in right now. Just stuff going around, man.
Yeah. I had a coworker message me on Wednesday, and she was like, "Are you tired of your isolation yet?" And I was like, "I was tired on Friday."
Was that Friday like the first day or Friday after a week?
That was the first day. So we had a positive test on a Thursday evening. And so then starting the next day, we were all on lockdown, of course, try to be responsible. And so just starting that day, I had so much stuff that I was supposed to do that weekend, and obviously I didn't do any of it. So,
right. Yeah,
it was like, man, I felt the lockdown and the isolation just that first Friday. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, last year when everybody was talking about lockdown and isolation just in general, because they're like, oh, I can't, initially it was like, oh, I can only go to the store during these certain hours, and we're not supposed to get together. But it's like I can't say for myself, because nobody in my family has thankfully has gotten COVID yet, but I mean, I'm guessing you don't really know what the isolation is like until you're completely locked down, because you or someone in your immediate family is ill with it. Because before, it was like, it's like, oh, we can go out, or just the hours of whatever is kind of limited, or we just gotta, social distance. But, when someone's sick, it's like, really, it's like, nope, nothing. But understandably, because you gotta, you have to quarantine and everything until everyone recovers. So
yeah, and we've done a degree of quarantine before. So like when everything first started, we had my wife had a potential exposure at her office or something, and so because of that, my work and then like the kids and everything, like we had to go home for 2 weeks straight to determine if we we're gonna show any symptoms. And of course at that time it was fine. So that was a little different though, because we all felt great, so we'd still go outside and do stuff, and so that's not really too bad. The hard part has been like it's been unseasonably nice the last couple of days here, and like I went outside to grab something from the car earlier, and I was like, oh, air, this is what this feels like. It's nice, but it's so tiring. I'm going back inside now. And that's just like how we've all felt, where everything has just been too tiring. So yeah, it's a little different.
That's like a real tease when Mother Nature's like, oh, here you go. And you're just like, yeah, just doesn't matter, because you're like, well, I can't go out, or if I do, it's like exhausting. So
yeah,
well, man, I'm sorry that you and the family are sick, but I'm glad that everybody's is starting to feel maybe a little bit better on the uptick, as you said. So
yeah, well,
I not to try to make it a competition or anything, because it's not. I was sick with something, um, like the end of the week before and quite a bit of last week. I was feeling bad enough that I was like, well, or my wife was like, you should get tested. So I went and got like a at home test and from Walgreens, and the packs, the ones you get come with two tests. So I took one, and it was kind of like, it has two lines on it. It's like a pregnancy test, kind of, but it's like you're like an amateur chemist when you're doing it, because it's like, it truly is, the at home experience, because it has the swab, that you jam in your nose and twirl it around both nostrils, and then put it in the little test tube thing with the liquid, and you got to wait. Gosh, we had to put it in there for a minute, and then you pull the swab out, and you put the test strip in there.
Yeah.
And that has to be there for like 10 minutes. So, the first test was like, I'm like, I think it's negative. They're like, because it's like, if you should always see the blue line, but then there's this like pink line that even if you kind of see it, it's like, that's positive. So I saw the blue line, but then it's like I could see some like red, but I was like, is that just the line that's there on the paper that just eventually appears? Like that appears, like if it is like, kind of like if you look at something in the certain light like that, you're like, oh, I can see it. It's not like active, but you can see it. So I wasn't sure about that.
Right.
So my wife was like, well, you should go get tested for from somewhere else. So I drove to urgent care, and they were like, I was like, hey, I think I want to get a COVID test, and they're like, when did you develop symptoms? And I was like, oh, it was kind of last night. I started getting like a cough and sore throat, and they're like, we don't test, we can't test you unless you've had symptoms for 24 hours. So I was like, oh, okay. So they handed me this sheet of paper with a bunch of, you can go to these other places and get tested. So I signed up at Hy-Vee on their online, but they didn't have any openings. So I went to this rapid testing place that I had to pay for, whatever, it's fine. So I got tested there, and you sign up online, you call them when you get there, they come out, jam the swabs in your nose in the car, and 15 minutes later they'll email you.
Yeah, we went to a drive-through testing center. That was quite the experience.
Yeah,
just like,
it's probably similar.
Yeah,
or the same thing basically. Yeah. So so that test was negative too. So I emailed my doctor, and it's like, you just got viral bronchitis or something. So anyway, long story short, I was feeling kind of, just a little meh, kind of whatever. And I mean, it was I was sick with something. I mean, it wasn't COVID, but
yeah.
So I was down a little bit, but nothing like what you guys have had. But I'm feeling better.
So that Sunday I felt great. Like, still, I moved in. We had a washer and dryer sitting in our garage, and so I got those moved in and installed and everything, and was just doing stuff. And I was like, all right, so tomorrow I'm gonna do this and this and this. So since I'm at home, I'm gonna get this stuff done. And then I woke up on Monday morning, and I was like, man, I don't feel right. This is weird. And so I went out to the living room, and then just passed out again for the day. Basically, I'd wake up periodically and be like,
Was that that was before you found out you had it, right?
Yeah, but at that point I was like, I'm guessing it's gonna be positive.
Yeah, because I remember you said initially, Shelly was the one who had it, and then you're like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling something.
Yeah,
and then and then that was it for sure. So Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's like, um, you know, how fast it, it came on you there, because you're like, yeah, whatever, okay. Sunday, it's been a couple days. I still feel awesome, I guess. And then Monday, you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, the kids and I were like,
out.
we were outside on Saturday afternoon and Sunday, and we just working on stuff and playing outside. I was like, yeah, that's right. We're gonna get outside and get these UV rays because that's fresh air and sunshine are gonna be the best thing for us. And then the next day, that was gone. So yeah, it's been rough, but you know, hopefully I'll probably start working from home this week is my guess, and which is nice that I have the option. A lot of people, a lot of people sure don't.
Definitely. Yeah, say what you will about, an office job, or, sitting at a desk all day or most of the day, but it's like, especially in with, today's, with our client, with this pandemic going on, is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Environment, climate, whatever. It's like with that type of job, at least most places give you that option. So yeah, that's great that you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, it's not. It wouldn't be like, you're like, I still don't feel great, but I can work from home, so it's like, I guess I should. That's.
Yeah.
I guess that's like, that's the kind of the worry with with a remote, or an option to be fully remote, is like, well, if I'm still not feeling great, it's like, well, but I'm at home anyway, so I might as well just get on and try to suffer through some of these meetings,
Right.
Or whatever, get your work done. So it's like, I saw something on LinkedIn the other day, because I kind of did that, on Thursday. Like Wednesday afternoon, I took the afternoon off because I hadn't been feeling great. But Thursday, I was like, I still kind of felt the same, but I was like, I should probably. It's like I still had that kind of guilt, like I should probably at least, show up
Right.
for work, even though I was feeling about the same. So I did, and it was okay. But it's like I could still tell that I wasn't like, I wasn't feeling 100%. And I had seen something on LinkedIn where it was like, I forget what they called it, but it's like people, that's a thing where people are like feeling like they should still, since they're at home all the time, like, well, I might as well work even though I'm kind of sick. And it was saying how it can, in some cases, it can make it so that your recovery takes longer because you're not resting.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're trying to work, and it's like, so that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though, so.
Yeah, when we first had the shutdowns and stuff, and my office switched to, they switched to like a rotation, which I was supposed to be on, and then because like we had that exposure scare, I just went full time working from home for a very long time. It was just like any day I got up and I was feeling like even a little cruddy, I was like, nah, I'm just still gonna go to my office chair, which actually was just like a big comfy chair because my office was in the garage for a while. And I was just like, all right, even though it's cold out here, I'll just layer up the blankets and turn on my little heater, and here we go.
I've done it a few times as well, because it's like, it's kind of that holdover of like, thinking about it now, it's like, man, I mean, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, so if I felt like this, and I was, before all this COVID stuff, there wasn't any thought for me and most people, I think, to even think about working from home. So it was like in the before times, it's like, would I have gone to work in this situation? And it's like, because there are definitely times where I probably, where I did go to work when I felt like crap, because I'm like, well, I don't want to, I felt guilty, or I don't want to take, I don't want to take this vacation, the PTO, the vacation / sick time, however your work does it.
Yeah.
And it's like this last week, I was like, well, definitely now, I wouldn't have gone to the office today, but it's like, but then there's that that, I guess that, like, whatever you want to call it, that guilt with like, well, I work from home, so it's not that big of a deal, because it's like, okay, I'm sick, but I'm still the only one here, or I'm down in my area, I'm the only one in the area, in the house, so it's like, why not just work?
Right.
So it's like, you still, and that's what that article I saw was saying, is like, well, you still need to, take take that time to heal and to recuperate, instead of feeling that pressure to go to work. So
Yeah, that's true. Man, I was just thinking about like a long time ago when we worked in that call center we worked at together. Around the time of
yeah.
the H1N1, and suddenly everybody was like,
Yeah, I remember
"If you
that.
don't feel well, don't come to work." And it was like this huge push, but it was this weird thing because like then people would, and they'd be like, "Hey, I'm feeling a little fluey. I'm not going to come in." And they'd be like, "But why? But you need to come in and get your work done." And it was like, wait a minute.
But you said not to come to work. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
we meant it.
we didn't really mean
but
it.
Make sure you get in here and get your work done too.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like, I've been really like blessed with my work situation where, our whole company is just like, in like March, when everything, when everything got hot and heavy, they're just like, everybody go home, but I know that not every work situation is like that, and I know that there's workplaces that, that maybe only let you do it a little bit, and then they're like, okay, now you got to come back in the office.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I would hope that the pressure, that you're, referring back to that call center, I'd hope that pressure isn't, isn't around or prevalent anymore, but, who knows? It probably
It
is.
is.
I mean,
Yeah, it is.
like those, like all that stuff that went down with all those meat packing plants, back
Exactly.
where it was just, they're just like, nope. So they're like, we don't care, and the executives are like, we're gonna bet money on how many of our workers get sick and die, or whatever, because it's like,
geez.
These these places that, I guess are have like critical products, or part of the food chain, or supply chain, and that kind of, I have no idea, what it's been like for people that work in those places. It's like, you hope that, these places took the proper precautions, but you don't know. I mean,
Yeah. Well, just you think about any job. When we worked in the call center and some of those other places, those are never the type of places that you thought you were gonna end up working at as a kid. And so, like, thinking about like.
Yeah.
Our kids seeing us go through this kind of a thing, and when they go to look for jobs, like, these are going to be questions they ask, and be like, yeah, if we have another pandemic, like what my parents had, how are you going to handle that? And are you going to respect me as an employee, and that kind of stuff. So that's
the whole thing has created a whole. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say that, because I don't think that's right. It hasn't created, but it's like it's brought a new or a renewed awareness to. To the plight of, workers, I guess. And, again, I'm not in a, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't want to say like a desperate situation, or in like a, I'm in a really good, work situation. So it's like, I don't feel a pressure, and I don't feel, like, I'm not one of those essential workers that's still having to go into where, whatever their workplace is. I'm not providing some essential service that is keeping, society going, and or keeping some part of our, that some part of our system that is helping us maintain our sense of normalcy, or keeping our services that we expect, running. And so, it's just, I'll be continually and constantly amazed at people that, that are still doing that. And I hope that, that these companies that employ them, I hope that they're waking up and are willing to pay them pay these people what they deserve and give them the benefits and the respect that they deserve for that. But yeah, it's definitely something. All this stuff is, like you said, it's something that our kids it's going to be different for them. And it's different now. It's just, this whole thing has changed the way that we work, or the perception and the expectations that people have of companies that employ them. So you're right. That's definitely going to be something that that our kids are going to be asking potential employers, and it's just like, man, it's been a crazy it's going to be 2 years now pretty soon. So
it's insane to think of how long it's been going on too.
Yeah. March, I guess, is when it all kind of went down for most I guess everyone would kind of think when it started. So we're, how many months away is that? It's only like 4 months away now.
Yeah, something like that.
This is crazy, man. And it's interesting, that you brought up, our kids when they start getting a job, because the topic that we kind of wanted to talk about tonight was what we wanted to be when we grew up, like when we were kids, what we wanted to be, and just kind of thinking about that briefly for myself.
The pandemic's kind of made me think about some of those dreams and goals that I had when I was younger. I remember being in fourth grade, Mr. Powell's class. Shout out to Mr. Powell.
What?
Yeah, they had this thing where you had to, for the open house, everybody had to really neatly write down what they wanted to be when they grew up and stuff, and your parents had to come and guess. And I in fourth grade I wanted to be a teacher. Probably because Mr. Powell had a big influence on me, I would think. And then later on too, I dabbled with the idea. Even took a couple of ed classes.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember in college you took some education classes.
Yeah, decided. Although teaching is certainly a noble profession, I think, and is especially in the last 2 years, really appreciated some teachers greatly for the effort that they've put in. Also, not appreciated some teachers and the lack of effort they've put in, but it's been. I will give them grace because it has been a wild time. But just thinking about that and man, if I had stuck to that, I'd be like a seasoned teacher now, being like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do remote learning.
Yeah, the whole teaching is just, you got to props to those teachers, especially especially seeing the ones like you're talking about, like Mr. Powell, other teachers that teachers that you appreciated when you were a kid, or teachers that you appreciate now with your kids going to school. It's just, you can't thank them enough for the work that they do, because teaching is one of those professions where it's just tough, man. And it's like you gotta have that passion to be good, because it's not really a job where it's not a job where you can just be like, yeah, this is one of those things where I can do it, and I know the stuff, so it's like I can go to work every day and do this and not completely hate myself or whatever. It's like if you don't have, sure, the material, and I guess the methodology or whatever that from being in college, okay, but it's like if you don't have that passion, and you don't have that
you gotta have a drive.
The drive.
To just encourage kids, or whatever age group, to be better, and then have to figure out how to motivate them to want to be better too, is just a gargantuan task. But it's, yeah. So I think for the most part, I think I dodged a bullet. Really, not to say that I don't think I could do it necessarily, but I also just, I don't know, because like every day that you come to class too, it's a little different because you can come to your office now and be like, how about if you leave me alone today? Josh is crabby. He's got a case of the Mondays, and people will leave me alone. But you can't really do that to your
no.
My last teaching bug that I had, I wanted to teach high school, and like I can't imagine coming to school one day like with all your high schoolers where you're supposed to be this great example and be like, listen, I really just hate everybody today, so if you could just
No, yeah, exactly, because it's like it's like you can't really have like an off day necessarily. It's like you have to have that drive and that dedication and that passion, and you have to have the patience, and you have to, like you said, like kind of like motivating the kids. Like you have to have that, like creativity to be able to try and make learning, interesting for kids. And it's like teaching just isn't one of those jobs where you can just be like, where you can just kind of float through it. Now I know clearly there like not every teacher is a great teacher, and not every teacher is one of those passionate teachers that will be remembered, for that passion. But it's like, it's like, I don't know, it's like, even if you're gonna be be like that, where you're just like, this is just a paycheck to me or whatever. It's like, I don't know how, like, why would you even do that? Now I understand, life and circumstances is like, that's what your background is and everything, but even then it's like, it's like, I would think that if you were like that, you would look for something else, because it's not like teaching is going to make you a wealthy person.
Yeah, that's
teachers
for sure.
Don't get paid, sadly, teachers don't get paid very much. So it's like, we know you're not in it for the money. So it's like, yeah, that's, hats off to teachers everywhere, man.
What about you? Did you ever get like as a kid, were you ever like, I'm going to be a teacher?
No, I did not. I can't think of any time where I wanted to be a teacher.
It clearly had more sense than me as a child.
Well, how long did you want to be a teacher? Like I know you, must have been while you were in college for a time, because you were taking those classes.
Yeah.
Was it something that you had like when you were a kid, or did it not come about until?
Yeah, well, I was in fourth grade. I wanted to be a teacher for sure, okay. And that lasted probably the whole year.
Did you say that you already said that, didn't you?
Yeah, and then so when I went to college, my original goal was actually graphic design. Way back in the day, there was these things called magazines where they would bind paper and then mail them to you, and so I got this thing called I don't know what's going to be in the future. So I got PlayStation Magazine, and they did this big multi-issue series about what it's like to work in the gaming world. And I thought that it sounded great. And so that's what I wanted to do. I was going to start and do some generals here in Lincoln and start my graphic design. And if I wanted to stay, then I would. And if I didn't, then there was a particular school in Arizona that was known for producing people, I guess, that would get scooped up into the gaming industry. And as I talked to some people about it, I kind of let myself be persuaded to do something else, and that was not going to be a good use of my time and stuff. Looking back, I actually kind of wish I had just done it a little bit anyways, because that'd be like a fun knowledge base to have. But So then I was like, well, I don't know, what else can I do? And I was like, I don't know, I kind of always, I like to teach stuff, and kids are really good and they're important. Maybe I should be a teacher. Yes. And so then I took some education classes, and man, I discovered very quickly that the amount of busy work you have to do to become a teacher is atrocious to me, and I couldn't make myself do it.
Yeah, I remember stories of it was Josh and I. We attended the same college. Um, I remember you and there were other people that I knew that were in education and or in the education program there, and hearing stories from the faculty, from the students about about their teachers, the work or the whatever that they were doing, and I was just like, nah. Yeah, it definitely sounded tough. Like every time they would talk about it, I'd just be like, wow, like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I that graphic design that makes sense for you, because I mean you do that kind of stuff now, at least a little bit. You kind of dabble in a lot of that
Yeah.
kind of creative design stuff, and that's it's never too late, Josh. You never know.
That's true. I guess I could.
Start taking some classes, man. Everything's remote now. Just
I didn't think of it that way, but
hit it
that's
up.
true.
I bet you could. You could probably. I don't know what curriculum. I mean, I can think of a few classes, I guess. That I remember from my time. But I don't know like what else. You'd have to take for that. But I bet. You could. I don't think Did you take the graphic arts class?
No, I took drawing for everyone.
Oh, I remember when you took that.
Yeah, and I discovered that freehand drawing was not something I was strong in, and so my art teacher was like, "Wow, you're really bad at this." So,
did they say that? Did they really
and then
say
he
that?
was like, "Okay, you just put that away now. We're gonna work on perspective drawing." And I was like, "Ooh, okay, what does that mean?" He was like, "It's drawing with a ruler." And so we went over a bunch of stuff, and he was like, "All right, so here's we had those like giant drawing tablet things," and he was like, "Okay, so."
Now, tablet, you mean actual paper?
Yes,
right?
I do. Actual paper, huge sheets of drawing paper, and my teacher was like, "Okay, so here's the basics for what you're gonna do. Practice these, and let me see them. Okay, yeah, good. Here's this, blah 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 blah." And he was like, "Yeah, so he's like, this makes more sense to you, doesn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it does actually." And he goes, "Great, I thought so. So don't worry about what the rest of the class is doing, because they're not going to be working on this at all. So fill this with a giant picture by the end of the year, or by the end of the class, for your final grade." And I was like, "All right." And that's what I did. I still have it.
Nice. I remember that. I remember you talking about the perspective thing. Now, wasn't there something where they're like, we want you to I want you to make it bigger.
Oh yeah, that was my issue.
Because you would draw it, but it on this giant piece of paper, but it would be really small.
I always drew too small on that thing. He was like, "All right, make a circle," and he'd make a giant circle, and I'd be like, "All right," whoop, and it'd just be this tiny thing. And he was like, "That's not what I meant." He's like, "Bigger," and so I'd make it bigger in relation to what I did the first time, which was still penny size though,
twice as big, yeah. But it's still.
He was like, no, like this, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." I was like, "All right," and so I'd go for it, and he was just like, I think we're gonna move you on to something else here. So we did.
Well, hey, at least that's what was the class called again?
It's drawing for everyone, or intro to drawing, one of those two.
So it's it sounds like a pretty broad title, school class title anyway, but that's great that they obviously clearly as a good teacher, they had an idea of it, they had a curriculum that they were going to follow, and that's awesome that they recognized that instead of just simply just being like, like I feel like a lot of classes maybe in other programs would be like, no, you have to do, I don't care, if you're not good at this assignment, you have to do it just like everybody else. Instead of being like that, they were like, they recognized that wasn't for you, and they switched it to something else that they felt would be more comfortable for you, and allowed you to do that. I mean, that's like, that sounds like a mark of a good teacher.
Yeah, well, he probably looked up my major and was like, not an art major. He can just appreciate drawing. How about that? And I do.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Yeah, I remember that, man. So me, like, there were a few different phases for what I wanted to be when I grew up. I feel like I remember back probably second or third grade. At that time, I think I wanted to be like a doctor, or maybe like a surgeon. Like, and of course, didn't really have, I just had this kind of like vague idea of like what a doctor or a surgeon would do. And I don't think that lasted very long. I mean, that might have been a similar to something like, like a lot of kids like, I want to be a firefighter when I grow up. It just something like that. That was a real short dream, or just kind of a passing, like almost kind of like, what do you want to be? And I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'll say doctor.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like the dumb question, because
yeah,
I mean, you think about like a child's understanding though, and it's like, well, I want to do something where I help people, and I want to also make a lot of money. A doctor, right?
Yeah. Obviously. There you go. Thankfully, I didn't say lawyer. So
that actually was my answer for a while. It's lawyer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, that's Josh, I think, after having known you, and I continuing to know you, and I feel there's a lot of things that you'd be good at. I feel like, you could do lawyer too. I feel like that would be a good one. I think maybe you should do, try to, you could pull like I don't know if you've seen Better Call Saul, or Saul Goodman, the guy from Breaking Bad, the lawyer.
I know who the character is. I haven't seen that show though.
It's just a kind of a prequel to Breaking Bad, where it focuses clearly, on him. But he becomes a lawyer by like going to like correspondence or night school, or it must be correspondence. He gets his degree from like University of like American Samoa, like his law degree.
All right.
But he lives in New Mexico, so whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So graphic design, lawyer.
Yeah, because I watched My Cousin Vinny, and so clearly that was going to be my calling. So I was also going to be a lawyer, just like Joe Pesci.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a doctor briefly. I think maybe for, who knows, a couple weeks. I also, I got into watching pro football probably around that time. So I kind of think, kind of overall everything else, like I always kind of had that dream, like I wanted to be a pro football player. I had this idea where I was like, okay, I'm gonna play high school football, and then I'm gonna go to college football, and then I'm gonna go play in the pros, and whatever, just kind of like one of those kid things, and what was even a little more like, I don't know what you want to call it, ridiculous or whatever aspect of it was, I was always thinking about it like from a perspective of a Seventh-day Adventist, because I was like, okay, obviously as a Seventh-day Adventist, I can't play football on from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. So that's clearly an issue with high school football and most college football, because most high school football is played Friday night, and college football traditionally is played on Saturday afternoon. So I don't remember how I thought that was gonna work out. Um, I at the time when I was a kid, I read this book series by an Adventist author about called the character's name was Bucky Stone. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I think I've heard of it. I don't know that I've read any of them though.
So I can't remember. I have to look up the author, but and it was a really long, a really big book series. Oh yeah, here we go. It was. These are the covers. Yep. It's David B. Smith is the author, and I'm trying to look. Where's the chat? Here we go. So I can send this to you so you can look at the picture. Anyway, so it was this book series, this Adventist book series, and so it was about this kid in high school who is he's a Seventh-day Adventist going to a public high school, and he's a just amazing athlete, and so he, obviously he gets noticed by the coaches, and he gets, pegged to be on the basketball and the baseball team. He didn't play football. I'm pretty sure he just played basketball and baseball. But basically, it's like the struggles of him trying to maintain his like Adventist faith, and also like still participate in in these sports, and so in the series, like there's times where like the school, like they move the games for him to, like, so that they're not during the Sabbath, and there's one where like he, in like his first baseball season, like all the games like all fall on like Thursday nights or like Saturday nights or Friday during the day or whatever, and so it's not a problem, but then they get to like the state championship and it's on a Friday night. And so he has to decide, is he gonna stay true to his faith, or is he gonna help out his team? And so he takes a stand, and he doesn't play, and gets kicked off the team and all that stuff. Anyway, so in my head, I was like, well, I don't really know how I reconciled all those issues that would come with football, and I was like, I don't know if I thought that it would just be a walk in the park, or it would all get sorted out like this fictional Bucky Stone character. But my ultimate goal of being a pro football player is like, well, they all play on Sundays, so that's not a problem.
Right.
They play on Sundays, so that would be okay. And but then I was like, well, sometimes like in the playoffs, sometimes they play on Saturdays. I was like, it's like, I didn't think too much about that, but so overall, like my entire childhood, from like probably second or third grade on, I was really into football, so I was always kind of thinking about that. But clearly that didn't happen. So
Yeah, well, spoiler: Nate does not play professional sports at this time.
No, I do not. And there was never a it was never a question, really. It was I was not a talented individual like Bucky Stone. I have a few other ones. I don't know if you have other, like, if you wanna go back and forth here, or I can go through the arc of my my childhood dreams.
I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. I had that moment a few times where I thought I should like become an actor.
I can also see that.
I want to be in the movies.
Josh.
But like looking at what we know now about, how child actors were treated in those days, because that was my goal, was to like be a child actor that actually then becomes an adult actor, because that was so rare at the time. So like when I talk about it, like that was the trajectory. But like thinking about, just the stuff that happened to child actors at that time, boy, again, probably bullet dodged. Not saying I was such a perfect specimen of a child, but close enough.
Well, it's, I feel like even in like the best case scenario, it's still okay. Like best case scenario, like nothing like tragic or untoward or malicious, happens to you, as sadly happens to, to some of the child actors, even then it's still like a sacrifice. It's like you like, you lose out on like your childhood basically, because if you're a big star, you just miss out on that stuff that your average, that average kids just take for granted, because it's like,
yeah,
you're on movie or TV sets all the time, and it's like you're being tutored, and
or
you
have the experience of like Jake Lloyd, who was Anakin in The Phantom Menace. Like, his life was destroyed by that. He got made fun of, and everybody just ragged on him and treated him terrible, and still do. Is like the insane thing to me. But I mean, occasionally though, there's examples like Sean Tuvey, who was Brian from Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. He just kind of grew up on the show, and then when he was done with Dr. Quinn, that's basically all he did. He worked at Blockbuster here in Lincoln, or in Omaha.
Really?
Yeah, like real local. I had a friend who,
I didn't know that.
Who
factoid alert.
I want to say it was here, because I had a friend who also used to work at a Blockbuster before he merged over to our infamous call center, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I used to work with Sean Tuvey." I was like, "You did not." He's like, "Oh yeah, he was just a real chill guy. Never talked about his time on the show or anything like that. Didn't want it brought up. Just wanted to come in and rent movies to people."
Yeah, look, here we go. He was born in Lincoln, Nebraska in 1983. He's almost like about a year older than me. Crazy.
Yeah.
I never knew that. Yeah, so it's like, it looks like he did a few other things, but then like Dr. Quinn was basically,
it was like his main thing. Which is fine. What a great like legacy to have. It was a long running show, 6 seasons I want to say, and 3 or 4 movies. So yeah, I think it's good I didn't end up in the child actor world. I don't know how I would have, but like, I'm glad that looking back, I'm like, even though sure I'd be like set for life now, depending, I just no thanks.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's what comes to mind for me like right now is like I'm thinking of like Stranger Things. That's a group, the core group of kids. I don't know, what is there like? Have you seen that show?
Yeah, so I'm 2 or 3 episodes into. No, I think I'm 5 episodes into season 2.
Okay. What are they? Do they have 3 that's out now?
I think so. I know I'm like really behind.
Because I know we've been waiting a couple years for whatever the next one's going to be. But like, that those kids, I mean, they started on that show. They were pretty young, and I know that like, I feel like the 2 big ones are like, was it Finn? Is it Wolfhard? Finn and Millie Bobby Brown. She's like the most, Finn Wolfhard and Millie Bobby Brown, and it's like, I read something where they were talking about, somebody was talking about, like the showrunners were talking about, her being on the show. So they're like, yeah, she's, she does a good job and she's, professional, but at the same time, it's like she's also a kid.
Right.
So, so it's like, I think they said one time she showed up and she was like, she showed up for like filming, and she was like covered in glitter or something. Because I don't know why.
That's so great though.
But and it's like, it's like, you just hearing that and you kind of think, you're like, it's like, how do you get to be like a regular kid and do just like the regular kid stuff, and all the while being like this international, part of this international sensation, this show that everybody talks about, and being really popular, and when you're still just a kid, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, like you said, I mean, I think, if you're on something like that, if you're on a show like a Dr. Quinn, or Medicine Woman, or Stranger Things, or whatever other. I mean, there's so many TV shows that that have child actors on it. Like you said, you'd be set for life, but then it's like, it's like, is it worth it to? I don't know. I mean, would they say it? Would they say it is? Interview them, 10 years from now when they're, I don't know. If the ones that are able to springboard from or maintain their acting career from being, when they're kids to adults. Like, I think someone who's able to do that was Elijah Wood.
True, yeah.
Like, he was one that has had a pretty stellar career. I don't remember what a lot of stuff that he was in when he was a kid, though.
I don't know. He was in Children of the Corn, maybe, or something with... oh, man.
Children of the Corn. Also something that takes place in Nebraska.
Oh, really? I don't really go for horror movies, so I didn't see it.
I haven't seen it either, but I read a short story, Stephen King, short story about that, or I guess where it came from, like the origin of it. Driving through Nebraska.
Yep. Did you ever see the movie Nebraska?
No.
That was interesting.
It
was very interesting. It was really good, but not for everybody. Just like Nebraska, it's not for everybody. Bruce Dern was great and wildly hilarious, I found. It was very well acted, and it was great because he comes to Nebraska, specifically to Lincoln, and the scenes that are shot in Lincoln, like, as somebody who lives here, you can tell it's here. Like, it's not like a backdrop or staged up or anything, and everything. It was pretty great.
Okay, like, I mean, I have not seen that at all. Okay, it's oh yeah, okay, I remember the poster. It's like this black and white poster.
Yeah, the movie was in black and white. Man, it's probably 5 years old now.
Bruce Dern. Will Forte, June Squibb, and Bob Odenkirk.
I forgot Bob Odenkirk was in it.
Better Call Saul. Yep. Saul Goodman. Wow. They try to claim $1 million sweepstakes prize on a long trip to Nebraska. Cool.
Yeah. And he shows up and... Anyway, yeah. Of course, it's one of those, like, mail-away scam things. It's like, show up for your blah, blah, blah. And he does, and they're like, oh, no, that's not... You see, you didn't finish reading this and this and this and this. And anyway, it's a movie. It's got a lot of heart in it, I would say.
Okay. So would you recommend it?
I would. I thought it was pretty entertaining. It was worth the watch.
Okay. Let's check it out. Oh, sorry. I'm just looking at, like, Elijah Wood. Going back to that. So he was in Back to the Future Part 2. He was one of the kids in the arcade.
That's right.
You got to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
That's right.
It's like, check it out, kid. I'm a crack shot. In the Cafe 80s. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So he was in Radio Flyer, which I don't think I saw. The Good Son.
The Good Son. That's the horror movie I was thinking of.
Yeah, with Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
North. He was also in Flipper with Paul Hogan and a dolphin. The Ice Storm. So I really remember, like, now that I'm reading this, I remember him when he was in Back to the Future. It was very small, like one scene.
Oh yeah.
The Good Son. I don't know if I actually saw that, but I remember now. It was him and Macaulay Culkin. Deep Impact was probably like the next one that I remember him from. I think I probably saw Flipper, but I clearly didn't make an impact on me. Wasn't a deep impact.
I saw my mom or stepdad came home one night with a movie called Zeus and Roxanne that was like a Flipper wannabe movie about a relationship between a dog and a dolphin.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to say Steve Guttenberg was in it.
Zeus and Roxanne. Yeah. Steve Guttenberg.
So we didn't watch Flipper. We watched Zeus and Roxanne.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Yeah. So, and then of course, I think what Elijah Wood's most well known for is clearly the Lord of the Rings movies.
Is that good? I don't know. Just kidding. I've seen them.
I heard it was okay. It was. I think it's based on a book or something.
Mildly popular film.
Yeah, something about a ring and like.
I'm not into jewelry though.
Fire or that, yeah.
I do like fire.
Yeah. Some like elves and swords and stuff. I don't know. If you got nothing better to do, you check it out. I guess it's okay.
Those are Christmas movies, by the way.
Yeah,
they got elves in them.
I got Christmas trees and elves, and Santa makes an appearance.
Yeah.
In each one. Now the trick is to figure out which scene is the one with Santa.
Yeah.
So we're talking about so we have this convergence of like child actors continuing into adulthood, and continuing their career as adults, and then we're talking about Nebraska, right? Because we had Dr. Quinn, then we had the movie Nebraska. So I thought of Neil Patrick Harris, who is Doogie Howser.
Oh,
right? Yeah. Doogie Howser, when he was a kid, and he was in I want to say, gosh, what was it? Was it Oh Pioneers? Or there was a movie that was set in Nebraska, and they filmed some of it at the Stir Museum in Grand Island.
Huh.
Stir Museum of the Prairie Pioneer in Grand Island. Neil Patrick Harris was in it.
Wow.
He was in the movie. So,
did you see Yes Man? Jim Carrey?
No.
And
no.
Zooey Deschanel, I think. Anyway, I
did not.
There's a scene where they go to a Husker game. Yeah.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. Speaking of Nebraska.
I recall Tommy Lee, the drummer for
Motley
Crue, filmed some reality show on campus at UNL.
That's right. Where I didn't watch any of it. That was a long time ago.
I didn't either. I didn't watch any of it either. Oh, man. I'm trying to... Oh, here it is. My Antonia. Yeah. Yep. So, Neil Patrick Harris, 1995, was in My Antonia.
Really?
Television movie based on the 1918 novel the same name, written by Willa Cather.
I read that book.
Represent Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
And it had Jason Robards in it.
Not familiar with him.
Famous actor. So I'm trying to think of like some of the like movies that we'd know that he was in. He was also pretty prolific on stage, it looks like. So like a movie I remember him from was The Day After. It was that one in 1983 where it was also a made-for-television movie where it was the day after nuclear attacks, like where the Russians nuked us, and we nuked them back.
Sorry, all I could think of was Dr. Strangelove.
Great film, also
so
great
good.
film. He was in Philadelphia, Jason Robards.
Okay.
I want to say he was one of the lawyers of the other side, like not Tom Hanks's side, but he was. Gosh, what was?
I've never seen that movie. I know it's like a classic Hanks movie. I just I don't know, never got around to it.
I want to say I've only seen it like one time, and it was a long time ago. Gosh, what else is this guy in? He was in Enemy of the State, 1998.
I remember that movie.
Uncredited role.
Will Smith, right?
He was like a congressman. Was that Will Smith?
Sure.
Yes, it was. He was in. Man, maybe I'll just send this over and you can peruse, because he's like I said, I only really remember him from that one movie, but I know that he's is a famous actor and been in a lot of different movies and TV shows and plays and stuff. stage productions.
He's got a interesting face. I suppose it's half the battle. Oh, he was in the Navy. Good for him. Naval service in World War
Yeah.
II.
So going back to like what we wanted to be when I grew up, so other than like the doctor and the pro football player, like there was two things that were really big for me basically for most of my elementary school and middle school at least, was I wanted to be like an astronaut and I wanted to be a pilot. Like those were huge, and I like obsessed over those like for years. Like I would, like it's all I thought about. Like I would read books about, space program, military pilots, airplanes, spacecraft. So they kind of went hand in hand because my goal was to be I wanted to be the pilot of the first manned mission to Mars.
Wow.
Is what I wanted to do.
Wow.
So I wanted, my goal is like, I'm going to go to the Air Force Academy and I'm going to learn, I'm going to be in the Air Force and I'm going to learn I'm going to be a pilot and, then I'm going to go to NASA and become an astronaut. And clearly that didn't happen either. So, but I would say probably from probably from like fourth grade all the way, like hardcore all the way through eighth grade. That was it for me. Like that was the tunnel vision that I had.
Wow.
And like I really wanted to go to like space camp. I don't know if you remember. Did you see the movie Space Camp?
Love the movie Space Camp.
Same. This gives 2 enthusiastic thumbs up from Nate here, if you've never seen Space Camp.
Yeah, it's same from me. That's a big deal in our house. Space Camp is.
Yeah, it's totally 80s and it's just awesome. Like
yeah, but it's so good. Like it's like a great balance between like a slight buildup of a suspension of disbelief and reality and humor and character development. Yeah, it's so great. There's a robot and there's kids and so good.
Jinx.
Oh yeah, Jinx.
So it's like I was just thinking, I'm like, that's a movie I feel like it was like way better than it had any business being. Like it was like the premise itself, you're just kind of, you look at it and you're like, that sounds
questionable. That
sounds silly and stupid. But like if you were just to like just hear about it, but then like you watch it and you're like, man, this is awesome. Yeah. This is great. And it was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. And it was, I forget when it was released. It was probably in the mid 80s or something. So I mean, it was already out on, VHS or whatever when I was VHS, I don't know. Maybe it was on beta, but we never had a beta player. So, I think we had it on tape at my house, so I watched it all the time.
Nice.
So I wanted to go to space camp, but so space camp, they had they started out with the space camp, the similar to what was in the movie, that type of experience, right? Granted, not quite like the movie. I don't want to spoil it, but it wasn't that dramatic. Space camp's not that dramatic. So they had space camp where you go and you basically take training and do activities where and they put you in the flight suits, the light blue astronaut flight suits, and you do training stuff in these activities and you learn more about that kind of thing and about space program. And so they had that, but then they introduced something later called Aviation Challenge, which was like that was more like a military pilot focused thing that they had. So I actually went to that.
Nice.
And this is a big thing. Like, I don't remember exactly how it came about anymore. I need to talk to my dad about it to kind of to remember it better. But basically, I was given the opportunity to go to either space camp or this newer like aviation challenge thing, and I ended up choosing the aviation challenge. So I went down to, gosh, I can't remember where it was now. I want to say it was like Alabama or something like that. And yeah, it's a camp, you know. It's a, you know, it's like you spend 4 or 5 days with this group of kids and these counselors, and you know, you do these different activities, and it was a fun experience. It was interesting. It's like, instead of doing space campy stuff like astronaut things, it was focused on like military, you know, aircraft. Like you got time in like a simulator. Like you would have these times where you'd sit in like a flight simulator, nice. And you know, they put you in a instead of the light blue astronaut flight suit, they put you in the olive green one. And yeah, like you had like, they had this big book with all the like this manual with all the stuff you were learning, and you know, they talked about, you had to come up with a call sign for yourself, and they talked about how, you know, how military you come up with call signs, or basically like I think, you know, they wanted us to basically tell like embarrassing stories about ourselves because that's where like the call signs were supposed to come from.
Great.
Because it's like, you don't just come in and like give yourself a cool call sign like, I'm Iceman because I'm cold as ice. Right. Cold and calculating. No, it's like, man, so there was one guy, my name was lame. It ended up being it was Vac Man, like a vacuum, because I like ate a lot or something, I think was. But anyway, my story was lame, but there was this guy, one of the counselors, he had a story. Like his call sign was Stalker. And his story was like, he was like hanging out, like, I don't know, he's hanging out with his girlfriend or something. And I mean, these people were probably like in their, you know, mid-20s or something. So his story was, that he told about his call sign was, he was like hanging out with his girlfriend at like the mall or something, and they both kind of went and did their own thing for a little bit, and then he came back, and he was gonna do like one of those things where you like come up, you know, kind of come up behind her and like, you know, put your arms around her like in a hug, and he's like, I came up behind my girlfriend and, you know, put my arms around her and hugged her, and like put my put my nose in her hair, and like, you know, took a deep breath, like, you know, or it, you know, whatever. It's supposed to be like this, you know, lovey-dovey couple thing, but the only problem is that the girl wasn't his girlfriend.
Oh no!
So who knows if it was true, but I guess that's why they called him Stalker.
Oh, that's hilarious though.
But anyway, so the culmination of like the whole thing was like, we had this like survival, this like, it was like Saturday night where like we went out as like a group, and we were supposed to like, I can't remember if we teamed up with like, if we were in pairs or something, but we were supposed to basically like, we were stuck out in like the bushes, like forest trees, and we were supposed to like crawl or like sneak our way from wherever we were to like, we're supposed to make it back to like a, you know, a base without getting caught.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like a survival
That'd
thing.
Be fun.
And I think most teams got caught, but anyway. So I got to do that, and that was cool. And yeah, but I mean, as far as like I said, I wanted to be an astronaut and a pilot, and that I had that whole idea, and it all kind of got derailed when I got to high school. And I don't know exactly why. I think it maybe just because I was, you know, you kind of expand your whole like horizon, like when you go from like middle school into high school. I don't know. It's like you got more things going on. You know, I don't know. You know, you start thinking about girls and stuff. You know, so it's just, I don't know. It's like, So basically my desire to do that was like, it kind of abated a bit, like it went away. And I even like, I can't remember, like probably when I was like 17 or something, I was still thinking about wanting to go to the Air Force Academy, and I'd filled out like this little postcard to get like information on it, or to like start the process, because it's a very involved, like very big process. And I was this close to putting it in the mailbox, and I, for whatever reason, I just didn't do it. So I don't know why, but I didn't. So didn't become an astronaut or a pilot.
Yeah, well.
So yeah, anyway. So throughout high school, I wanted to be a writer. Like, I decided I wanted to be like a novel writer, like a novelist. That was like my goal.
Oh, nice.
Also didn't happen.
Still could.
Yeah, that still could. Yeah, but that was kind of what I transitioned from, like the astronaut pilot thing. I switched into more like, I wanted to be, I got into, I was into reading a lot anyway, but I wanted to be like, I was like writing that kind of crappy poetry that you write when you're a kid, like you're an angsty teenager.
Oh yes.
Like that, and I wanted to, be a novelist and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's pretty much it as far as like what I wanted to be when I grew up. Was there any other things on your side?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
I mean, me too. I mean, I'm still like waiting for that time. Like, man, when I grow up, what am I gonna do when I grow up?
Exactly. Oh well, just keep dreaming, keep working on stuff, keep dabbling. I think that's where I'm gonna be happiest right now, anyways.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Got my hobbies that I enjoy, and don't need to, I don't need to make money off of those to feel fulfilled. So that's a good thing right now.
Well, right. Yeah, and it's like, that's like almost like the perfect place for it, because as a hobby, because like you said, it's like, as soon as you kind of start turning that into, or thinking about that as like a career or like work, like then it becomes just that, like it turns into work.
Yeah.
And so it's
which could be fine, just
yeah. I mean, it can be, but it's like, I feel like it's also a good way to kind of kill that interest in it too, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you start trying to like monetize it, then you're just, or going down that career path, then it just becomes, it's like it becomes not worth it, or it kills that interest that you had, because now it's just like, now it's work. Yeah. Man,
it's the grind.
I mean, yeah, there's people, that that are able to keep it their passion and also make money off it. So, kudos to them for being able to do that. For sure. But yeah, man, I think, a couple of things on my list anyway, like being a pilot and being a writer, are, like you said, are still things that I could do. I mean, writing is an easiest thing you can do, because you just got to, the way you get better at it is you just do it. You just do it, and it's like, so I mean, you can write. It doesn't matter what it is or how much you write. It's like, just to do it. Like I read some of Stephen King's book on writing, called On Writing. He's one of my favorite authors. But yeah, that's his big thing, is like, you just do it. It doesn't really matter what it is. You do it every day. You read, you read a lot, and you write a lot. The pilot thing, I think that being, obviously I'm not going to be an Air Force pilot, but you could still, being a private pilot is still something that people can do. The only problem now is that it's getting to be like prohibitively expensive to do that type of thing. So, just, you can do the book work, I guess, because there's the ground school part of it, the studying and all that you got to do in addition to the flying. But, and, you can do that, I guess relatively inexpensively, at least kind of on the side, if you're not like taking classes and stuff, if you're just kind of doing it on your own time. But the whole getting into an airplane and getting time with an instructor is a little expensive. Yeah, very. So, who knows? Maybe someday.
Yeah. Could happen.
Hey, it could happen.
Yeah.
Mick World.
Chase your dreams.
Don't let your memes be dreams.
Your dreams be memes.
Dreams be memes. Yeah, that's what they say.
Somebody says it somewhere. Said it here.
Yeah. Josh, I hope you and the fam continue to get better, and everybody out there, thanks for listening to us. You can catch us online at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and MySpace. Is MySpace up yet?
It's up.
It is. Okay. I think we're the Open Eclectic everywhere.
Yep.
So check us out, and we wherever you get whatever your favorite app or services for podcasts, check us out. We should be on there as well. So until next time, stay classy and change your socks and underwear. You can cut that out. All right, everybody, take care.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. You can find The Open Eclectic on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and MySpace. Want us to ramble on about something specific or have a comment on what you just heard? Send us an email at theopeneclectic@gmail.com. We now have a Ko-Fi if you feel like supporting the show. That's ko-fi.com/theopeneclectic. Or support the show by leaving us a review. Thanks. We hope you'll join us again next time on The Open Eclectic.